Hello and welcome to Current Comic Crap, the show where we take a look at some of the recent things that happened in comic books that I feel are worth talking about, things that have resonated with me personally. And unfortunately, we had resonation because some of my boys were killed. My boys are characters in DC Comics that I have quite an attachment to because I think they're great characters, and I think that they were killed, and in one case incapacitated, way too soon, when there was a lot of potential to be had in their stories. So, let's discuss. When I originally decided that I was going to do Current Comic Crap, I figured I would mostly just be talking about events that happened in current comics and then give a mild opinion piece at the end of it. For this one, it's mostly going to be the opinion piece, but here are the facts so you actually know what I'm talking about. So recently there was a new event that started called Heroes in Crisis, and this is something that has been built up to for quite a while. Multiple characters, heroes, and villains that have various problems were going to go to Sanctuary, which was basically just a rehab for super people. And two of the main residents were built up to be Roy Harper, aka Arsenal, and Wally West, aka one of the two Flashes, both of which were on the Titans team. There's an entire whole rant I could also give about my boy Booster Gold being in there and how I'm not a big fan of how his character was portrayed, but that is not really the focus of this. Basically what we found out in issue 1 is that everybody in Sanctuary died, and maybe it was or wasn't Booster Gold's fault. Admittedly, only the first issue is out, so I don't really know a whole lot of what's going to happen, and in fact the next issue is going to be coming out only a few days after I record this. Ordinarily, I would try to go more into all of that, but this really isn't a video about Heroes in Crisis. This is the catalyst that more set off the events that I'm a little bit upset about. And look, I have nothing against Heroes in Crisis right now, since, like I said, there's only one issue. I love Tom King to death, and I do trust him to tell a good story, and I'm not really going to judge this before it even had any real time to get started. However, not too long after we had all of the people die in Sanctuary in Heroes in Crisis, we also had a storyline in Batman where Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, got shot. This led into the current storyline that they're telling in the Nightwing comics where Dick now has amnesia and he's left the superhero game entirely. Now he's this drunken mess who hangs out at pool halls, he is a cab driver, and he has no intention of rejoining the superhero community. He is done being Nightwing, he's not even calling himself Dick Grayson anymore, he's Rick Grayson, he has hardcore amnesia, doesn't really know who he is, all he knows is that he's upset that everybody who's interested in talking to him doesn't really care about him as a human being, they more care that he is Nightwing and they want him to return to fighting crime. He feels that that's a little bit of an insult to him as a person. This has all been a really good story in the Nightwing book, but it instantly made another book worse. Titans. So in DC Comics, there are two different books that are very similar. You have Teen Titans and Titans. Teen Titans are exactly what you'd expect them to be, albeit right now things are a little bit weird since Damian Wayne, the current Robin, has restructured the team to do a new thing and has a drastically different feel. But the Titans have always been the adult version of the Teen Titans. All of the original members of the team are now grown up and they have their own different super team. They dropped the teen moniker. It's just a good fun time, and I was really enjoying the Titans book. But I will admit that before all of this even happened, they did completely restructure the Titans team, with Nightwing now making this a sort of sub-team of the Justice League, and Roy and Wally were not a part of it. I'm gonna be honest, I am not a big fan of this current team dynamic, since it didn't have the same feel of best friends that the last one did. They brought on some of the members of the previous Teen Titans incarnation, most notably Beast Boy and Raven. Even then though, especially with how things are in the current continuity and how they weren't a part of the Teen Titans when Dick was the leader, it just didn't feel quite right. However, with Dick shooting, he is no longer on the team as well. So now we have lost Nightwing, Arsenal, and Flash on the Titans team. At this point, it's completely different and unrecognizable. The only character that we had from the previous incarnation of Titans is Donna Troy, who is fine, but doesn't have the heart to carry this entire thing. This new group of characters isn't bad, but they don't mesh the same way that the last one did, and it made the book feel a lot more inferior. I'm normally not one to complain about, this is all different and I hate it because change is awful, but I was really enjoying the Titans book, and now it just feels hollow. Dick no longer being a part of the team, at least he led it for a little bit, him no longer being on it kind of just cemented this change in the feel. I really don't know how I feel about that. Yes, obviously Roy and Wally are going to come back to life. They were killed off pretty unceremoniously, not even really showing that. I'm sure the Heroes in Crisis storyline is going to show that off more, but they were just killed without really much mention of it whatsoever. Feels a little sacrilegious for two relatively big players in the complete history of the DC universe to be killed off like that. And yes, Dick is obviously going to return to crime fighting in some capacity. Either he's going to get his memories back, or he's going to work past it and become a new Nightwing. Who knows? I get that all of these changes are just temporary. I just really hate that while we are getting these two interesting stories, Heroes in Crisis, I very much want to see how it plays out, and I am currently liking the Nightwing story. It really just sucks, though, that Titans has to suffer as a result. They brought in a bunch of characters that I really just am not digging right now. The current lineup on Titans is a little bit all over the place. Raven is a little bit weird in this incarnation. I haven't really been a fan of her writing in the past. Beast Boy is all moody since his powers are in constant flux. We have Steel's niece in here, and she's kind of the mostly emotionless inventor who's just there to be smart and sometimes be angry. They brought in Miss Martian, who doesn't really add a whole lot to the team dynamic, especially since she's just there to be a chaperone for the team for the Justice League. And I really do like Miss Martian's portrayal in the Young Justice books. However, this just isn't anything like that. She's kind of a buzzkill, but doesn't want to be a buzzkill, and they try pairing her up with Nightwing, which is weird, but doesn't really matter now because he's not a part of the team. Who else is on this book? They left so little of an impression. Oh, no, okay, that's everybody. I mean, they brought back Aqualad, now Tempest, for the last issue, but probably not going to be a recurring character since he's mostly just there to tie into the new Drowned Earth event. Really, that's it? I mean, without Nightwing, what is there to really follow on this book? I mean, we got Jason Rubel, the random side character from the current Supergirl series, and his thing he has going on with Steel. It's not really interesting. There's nothing really keeping me on this book. At this point, I really just feel like I'm only reading it because for my job, I pretty much need to read every book that's coming out currently. There's not a lot that's really keeping me there as a fan, and that's unfortunate. Seeing where Nightwing was going to take this, seeing how it was set up to be a intro to him potentially taking over the Justice League as a whole, it hasn't delivered on that promise, especially with the leader being gone. This was supposed to be Nightwing's elite team as a subsidiary of the Justice League. Now, it's nothing. There's no distinct leader, and maybe they'll play around with that idea. We got a little bit with Aqua Tempest and Donna Troy's interactions about being sad that their friends are dead and Nightwing has been shot. It wasn't a lot, though. That should be the emotional core of the book and feels hollow, just sad more than anything else. And I'm disappointed since a lack of good stories is heartbreaking as a comic fan at the end of the day. One thing I did want to mention before leaving this video is that I really do like that Wally and Roy were actually seeking help in Sanctuary, especially for Roy, since this was a bit of a thing that was going on in the Titans comic and in the Green Arrow comic. It was him accepting that he needed help and finally taking the step towards it. And one big problem that I have with this is that we didn't really get to see what this journey looked like since he was killed so soon. I really hope that Heroes in Crisis does explore this further, but one of the main reasons why all of this upsets me is because we didn't get a chance to actually complete the arc that we had seen with Wally and, more importantly, Roy on their journey towards bettering themselves and to becoming better people and fixing their problems. It really does feel that by simply killing them off and not even really showing it in issue 1, it felt like I was robbed of storylines that have been built up for about a year. That's really what gets me, and I know that I'm probably too much of a loser for caring too much about these fictional characters. It's just disappointing as a comics fan. But anyway, if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing or even watching another one? In fact, we had the very first issue of Current Comic Crap last week where I talked about how Old King Thor is currently the Phoenix. It's interesting. So if you like this format, well, there's the only other episode of it. Anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully I'll see you next time.